Fellow Guyanese, good afternoon. This afternoon I want to address in a comprehensive way the issue we're all faced with in relation to the power outages we have been experiencing in the last 2 weeks. As a responsible government and a government that has committed itself to openness and frankness, I thought it necessary as President that once again I address this issue that is indeed a difficult one and one that is inherited in a holistic manner, and to bring an update as to the plans and how we are going to ensure that the efficiency and reliability of power is maintained and expanded. However, it is important for us to note that the issues facing GPL are multifaceted. First of all, in 2020, we inherited a system that lacked maintenance. Resources was not spent on the maintenance of the transmission. The transmission system itself was not expanded for the projected demand. The distribution network also had limited maintenance. We had transformers that were inefficient, and we had issues with technical and non-technical losses. Notwithstanding these challenges that were inherited and the investment that were not made in maintaining the system, we confronted the challenges and worked assiduously on expanding the system, enhancing the capacity of the system, building out substations, building out a network, enhancing the main transmission line, creating some amount of redundancy. But all of this, whilst necessary, was just catching up with what was before us, catching up with the growing demand, catching up with rising maintenance requirement, catching up with age infrastructure, age generating capacity. So all of that we were doing and working around at the same time. To compound this, we have a severe skill deficit in the PPDI and Guyana Power and Light, especially at the technical level. There is indeed a shortage in relation to technical capacity and capability. There is also a gap in the generation capacity. That is, whatever is demanded at peak, we are not reaching that demand. And to compound the problem is that because of the inefficient asset and generating capacity, that gap or deficit is widened. Whilst the existing gap and deficit is widening, the growth in the system is enormous. And we have to start planning, well, we have already started to plan, to confront this growth. Because as we move towards the reduction in the cost of energy, halving the price of energy, then more entities that are self-generating now will migrate to the grid. And we have to now work on ensuring that that projection, that growth is taken into account. There is no redundancy in the system. So if at any time one generator goes down, that there is no redundancy in generating capacity to fill that gap. So it means that a community or communities will be out of power. We're assessing our management capability, and we need to also work on strengthening our management capacity and capability. There is, with all the investment we are making, critical to these investments is the modernization of the transmission lines, the distribution lines. Massive overhaul in the transmission lines and distribution lines is critically needed. Yes, we have started a lot of that work, but there is tremendous investment that is required in the transmission line across the network. That is why we are already in discussions with UKEF and other stakeholders to see how we can accelerate the investment in those transmission lines and distribution lines. We also have to work on line losses, technical and non-technical. Whilst the corporation is working on the technical aspect of it, it's non-technical, which includes stealing of electricity and these things. Not only compromise the system, the increase in the construction around the country put the system at risk also. We are moving because of the new highways we are building, new buildings we are putting. We have to move network whilst we are building out the infrastructure. So it's a multifaceted and complex issue. But we own this issue, and we have to, and we're working to ensure that very soon, the reliability that we want would be achieved. To compound this, the break-even point at GPL is, and this is all other things being equal, that is, you don't have the maintenance problems that we're having, you don't have generators going down on us, those that are 30 years old, is worked out. The cash flow is worked out at fuel being supplied, bunker fuel being supplied at $75 per barrel. As I speak to you now, we are paying between 100 and 105 US dollars per barrel, including freight costs. That is the cost we are paying now. None of that cost we have passed on the consumer. And we have no intention of passing any of that increase to the consumer. But our intention is to ensure that we bring down the cost of electricity to the consumer by 50%. So these are some of the wide-ranging issues that we are faced with. Notwithstanding that, within 15 days, and this is historic, it is amazing that within 15 days, we can have a power ship coming in here, ready to be connected to the grid. So in the next 14 days, we are working on ensuring that all the infrastructure is in place to accept that power, more than 35 megawatt. But that 35 megawatt is immediately going to be placed in the system. But that won't give us the potential to deal with the growth. It won't give us the potential to have redundancy in the system. So we are working, we have to find immediately, based on the numbers I'm looking at, an anticipated maybe 60 megawatts of power to support the demand and to support what will be the eventual outcome of reducing the cost of electricity. So in addition to the 250 megawatts of power that will come from gas, we will also need additional power. That is clear, based on the type of growth and the demand we are seeing. That is why we are also thinking ahead as to whether additional gas will be required to have a second gas plant, to have an expanded generating capacity fired by gas, and this also necessitates the Miles Falls Hydro project to come on stream as quickly as possible. We would have not had this problem today had the APNU AFC have the foresight to support this project, when they use every tool possible to block this project and chase away the investors. Today we have had 165 megawatts of power supplied by clean energy in operation. But that is water under the bridge. The task is always fell on the PPP civic lap to fix things, fix broken things, make it work, and rebuild things. So I wanted to address this issue directly because the government is taking ownership. We understand, yes, there is issues that we're dealing with at GPL, and we're working on the technical issues, the capacity and capability issue, but the government is making the investment to make this better. So my government acknowledges the difficulties faced by consumers who receive electricity from the Guyana Power and Lighting, the Amrara-Berbice interconnected system, which is in large part the direct result of neglect by the previous APNU-AFC government, and their slothfulness regarding adding appropriate generating capacity to the grid. Their slothfulness in adding that additional generating capacity to the grid. In recent years, electricity demand has increased exponentially, increasing from 126.4 megawatts in 2020 to 184 megawatts to date. Just think about that increase. 126.4 megawatts in 2020 to 184 megawatts to date, and this is growing every single day. And this is driven by broad-based economic expansion across all sectors and from the oil and gas sectors and activity. The expanded oil and gas sector, 14 new hotels coming on stream, new housing areas, all of this is ramping up demand. So not only are we expanding and ensuring that the new power plant is completed, but we have to get hydro completed. And we have to add these capacity as bridging power as we bring the larger investments on stream. This unprecedented expansion in power demand, coupled with the need to maintain adequate spinning reserve, which should be maintained at 1.5 times the capacity. That is the industry standard. We should have 1.5 times the capacity of spinning reserves, and that is the capacity of the largest generator unit in the grid, which will require 14 megawatts of spinning capacity, and as well as redundant capacity to ensure continued power supply even if there is a failure in one generating unit. This has placed considerable strain on the existing system that we inherited from the last government. This PP civic government has taken up the task to proactively and meaningfully address the current situation and the historically binding constraint to development, that of affordable, reliable, and adequate energy, through robust support and investments in our power generation and distribution system. Since assuming office, this government has made targeted and decisive investments in pragmatic energy mix, in promoting a pragmatic energy mix, focus on lowering carbon emissions through the use of natural gas and renewable energy, including solar and hydropower. To bring immediate relief, this PPC government has installed 10 megawatts of emergency power upon assuming office in December 2020, operationalized the 46.5 megawatt at Garden of Eden in October 2022, that the APNU AFC failed to deliver. They failed to deliver this. We came in and had to operationalize that. And we have further procured an additional 28.9 megawatts situated at Columbia. Further to this, I wish to announce that today, government through the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated conducted a time charter agreement with UCC Holding for a power ship to be deployed to Guyana within 3 weeks. And within this 3 weeks, it has to be connected to the grid. This arrangement will bring an additional 36 megawatt of power to the national grid to offset generation shortfalls. This facility involves the chartering of a power supply vessel that will be connected to the DBIS at Everton in Berbice to provide timely support to the generation capacity of GPL and relief for consumers connected to the DBIS grid. The vessel will be chartered for a period of 24 months from the date of commencement of the agreement. This power arrangement is being obtained at a very competitive cost. It will cover the charter cost of the vessel, including its generating engines, as well as operations and maintenance costs. It is important for us to note, and I want to say this again, that whilst this facility will come in place, based on what we're seeing, based on the projections, we have to go after more power. But this facility gives us that room to make the investments in the age infrastructure that we have, to ensure that that infrastructure, all of it, is brought on stream to support the demand for energy. Additionally, we are taking steps to increase the technical capacity of GPL by recruiting an additional 10 engineers with the relevant skills to ensure adequate maintenance and reliability in the system. Now, we have gone out many times to procure the services of Guyanese engineers, and we have not been successful because of the demand for engineers in other areas. So we are working, for example, I just concluded meetings with Cuba, the Cuban ambassador. They have very skilled technical personnel who they are willing to deploy immediately to work in the system and to help us technically. Beyond these near-term interventions, the government continues to advance work on the construction of the integrated natural gas liquid plant and the 300 megawatt combined cycle gas turbine power plant within the Wales Development Zone. This represents the single largest investment made in the electricity sector and single largest engineering, procurement, and construction contract undertaken. In addition, proposals are currently being evaluated for the 165 megawatt Amila Falls hydropower project, and the $160 million is being invested in upgrading the transmission and distribution system to improve its capability and reliability. Combined with massive investment in the Amila Falls hydropower project and other alternative energy investments, the Wales project will reduce our energy costs by 50%. Reliable and adequate, and it will be reliable and adequately meet the energy demands of our growing economy and unlock the potential of the manufacturing and industrial sector. On this point, I want to note that with the adjustments in the cost of energy, we are projecting a major migration to the grid, but more importantly, expanded demand. With the type of manufacturing and industrial development that will take place and the expansion in these sectors, that demand will triple. And we have to find the short-term power whilst we're building out the major power facility. My government's priority continues to be to ensure that adequate electricity is available to meet the needs of our rapidly growing economy, both in the immediate term as well as in the long term. My government remains committed to meeting the expectation of the Guyanese citizens of an adequate, reliable, and affordable electricity supply. I want to assure Guyanese that every day and night we are working on this to ensure reliability and affordability and adequacy in terms of energy supply and cost of energy are the hallmarks of what we want to achieve. I know it's frustrating. I know it's frustrating. I know how hard it is. I know it's stressful on families. It is stressful on us too. We have inherited a broken system that lacks maintenance. But we have to confront this challenge. So as we work in the next 3 weeks to have this additional power connected, we are also working on bringing in, within 2 weeks, the technical capacity. And because of the age infrastructure, the age engines, the age generators that we have, finding spare parts is very difficult. Very, very difficult. We've also had some very strong words with Warcilla. I've read the right act to the management of GPL. We are sparing no effort as a government to ensure affordability, reliability, and adequacy in our energy ecosystem is achieved. We are going to do this. It's going to get better. It's going to become the best in the medium term. But as a government, as your president, I had a responsibility to speak to you directly, to describe to you in totality the situation as it exists now, and to point you into the direction that we're going. I thank you, and God bless you.